I'm Atalanta, and this is Soul Connection. Soul Connection is a series dedicated to teaching you how to tap into and connect to your soul on a deeper level. We will be exploring spirit versus soul, mass meditation, chakra energy, vibration, and connecting to all. We will learn how to tap into our soul and figure out what our purpose is on this earth in this lifetime.
Welcome to another episode of Soul Connection. In this final episode of our 8-part mini-series, we are going to tie everything together. How do we communicate with our soul? Is it through dreams? Is it through meditation? Through our higher self? All of the above? What are the benefits of doing so? How does this apply to our everyday life? And what does this do to affect others? Do you believe in the collective consciousness? What is the collective consciousness? Is it just a melting pot of everyone's soul in one energetic form? Is it a web of all the souls that are connected? We're going to discuss that with Malik from New York, who's been on the show before, get his opinion and his expertise. So, no further ado, let's welcome Malik.
Yeah.
We're back on another episode of Soul Connection, and this is actually our final episode of this mini-series. And throughout the last months, we've been exploring, soul versus spirit, communicating with your soul through higher self, dreams, dream interpretation, all these different aspects and avenues that you can connect to your soul. We have Malik here tonight, and we are going to kind of recap everything. And I'd like to start off. First of all, how are you, Malik?
I'm well. How are you, Atalanta?
I'm great. I'm great. Thank you so much for coming on. I would like to just kick it off with your opinion as far as do you believe the soul and the spirit are the same, or do you believe they're separate? What's your thoughts on that?
I actually think they're separate. Um, it's a little unique. Let me describe it as I believe that we have two spirits, a body spirit and then a mind spirit. So the body spirit, it would be part of your personality that's instinctive, root chakra kind of stuff related to earth, your connection to it. A little bit of primalness mixed in there. And then breath spirit, intellect, air, what connects you to this world, makes you engaged. I've read it, and I've read it before. It is a belief. How I kind of relate to it, and I do believe it myself, obviously, is like if someone, God forbid, is in the hospital in a coma, the body's still alive, but the mind is somewhere else. And so it's clear they can one can exist without the other, but it shows the separation. It shows that there's not just one soul entity, it's split. Does that make sense?
That absolutely makes sense. That's a very interesting perspective. So my belief system's a little bit, I guess a little bit more common maybe. And I believe the soul and the spirit are separate, and that the spirit is sort of like almost, and this is just brief, I could dive deep into this, but the spirit is like the umbilical cord to like this earthly plane that we live on, which is why you can have entities and spirits and things like that, and that the soul is what's reincarnated. But the spirit, I guess, would be the lifetimes that are led by the person or the being. But yes, so my belief system is that the soul is part of like the collective consciousness. Do you believe in the collective, or do you believe we're individualistic? What are your thoughts on that?
Okay. I relate it to something that I call the master intelligence. So I've had experiences in the past where there was a presence that made itself known to me that assisted me in something that I was engrossed in, encompassed in. It was something that I had to finish, but it was out of my skill set to do so. And when an emotional point hit is where this intellect, and I believe it to be the spirit of air, came to me. I can still vividly remember. It felt like it was on my right side by my ear, and I was a mason at the time. The thing was, the task I had was I was supposed to build steps for someone, and I didn't know how to do it. I was a laborer. At the end of the day, long story short, after a lot of stress and a lot of tension and a lot of yelling and a lot of anger, I listened to that intellect and it worked. And that was amazing. Um, and it was the intellect, it was very silent, but also knew it was a part of me, but also separate from me.
So like the
And then I felt it
intellect is
travel.
part of the collective, is that what you're saying? Like
Yes,
the
yes,
intellect was the information that you received from the collective.
exactly. Yes. My little piece of it is what bring it to me, but
Mm-hmm.
everyone else has that same capability. It's if we're all one because we're all connected, united, and mixed.
Different. What
Yeah.
what would you consider the collective consciousness? I mean, do you think that like all the souls connected, do you think it's information that's out there that's connected? Is it a combination of both? If somebody came up to you and said, give me a definition of the collective consciousness, what would you tell them?
I would an average person, I would explain it like this. So I'm by job, by trade, I'm an engineer, electrical engineer. And there's a certain product out there that the more you install this product, let's just say light switches, the more you install these light switches, the stronger the product becomes, like almost like Wi-Fi. The more around, the less times you're going to drop Wi-Fi. Okay. It's called a web network. That's because this light switch will connect to this one, and to this one. And now, before you know it, you're building this web crosshatch. And um, if my neighbor decides, hey, I'm going to install the same thing, now my house is connected to my neighbor, and so on and so forth. So when we think about that as people, if we're all connected, that's one way. Another way is nature. Nature creates its own vibration, its own energy field. Some people are lucky enough to see an aura around a tree or a blade of grass. Well, that we can see a certain piece, and then there's a little bit more to it. And then the trees blend in, and then we walk through it. And then there's birds and there's animals, and everybody creates it's just one big collective energy dome round thing. And I believe that the more, I mean, really, just to be straight, the more good you do, or the higher tune you are, everybody, everybody's human. There's a reason to make mistakes because, learning experiences. I'm not knocking negative things. Without them, there wouldn't be positive. Not highly Krishna type. Just say, that's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is, if you can live your best life, meaning towards others, you don't know how many times in my life I struggled to my core, where it was giving up was never an option for me. And I say that with pride, right? But it's waking up to the pit of my core where I had to struggle just to get out of bed over instances I couldn't control, not depression. I'm talking about fighting outside circumstances. Nature
So
has
you
its
believe you
own.
can tap into other people's information? Like, for example, you and I are obviously connected, as everyone is.
Mhm. Yes,
Um, do you believe that some people have the skill, like you would have the skill to tap into my information? And do you believe it's through souls that we tap into that information?
absolutely. Direct eye contact. Old, old like what would it be, like moral or ethics of how people used to act, actually serve purposes like handshakes. You feel the person's energy field when you don't think about it. It gives you, you know, your first initial instinct. Um, it changes your whole physiology in that split millisecond. But if you don't do it, you don't get the chance. If you don't look someone in the eye, though you can look at the phone, that's it's radiation, it's energy in your face like you need what you get from people. But that's not an eyeball. You know, that there's a solar system in there, you know? And if you are and I hope I get a chance to explain it in a movie that I came across, but if you are nice enough to a person where they accept you for who you are and you are genuine, these things are infallible, so it can't be faked. You know, that you're genuine and that person accepts you, then I'm not saying you read their mind or anything. I'm saying that their that energy field is available for you to tap into.
Okay,
You
say
might
you
not
and
get
I were in person communicating
got
because
it,
it would be
got
easier
it.
that way. We could do it without being in person, but there's an energetic field that we exchange, okay, that
Yes,
that we can
yes.
connect on. But also, do you believe that people, okay, because if we're all connected through a web of consciousness, would we be able to communicate through our souls, right? So, and I use
Hmm.
up and down just because that's the only way to explain it. But yes, we can connect energetically. Can we connect through our souls, specifically our souls, not our spirits, but our souls? And in other words, share information that we have collected overall. Does that make sense what I'm asking?
It does. And the three acceptances. So for one, the person has to accept you. Two, nature would have to accept you. Nature acts almost like a Wi-Fi signal. You're able to reach further distances if the nature spirits, you know, favor you rather than, you know, dislike you. There's a lot more effort into magic you have to do if it's, you know, the opposite. And then the other acceptance is work. So in order these three steps, the first one, it's meditation to start with, would be key and key number one. So I do this myself. I don't teach this. This is not like my it is an expertise for me, but I don't explain it to others very often. I just do my best. You know, you start with the root chakra, you can feel it once you get in tune with your body. And then as you move up, each chakra is responsible for a different connection to the world. Now picture that if my body is pushing out energy in different levels, that means there's different levels of energy, right? And I have to be able to tap into each one of them by mastering them to hit the crown. Once I hit the crown, now I'm able to speak to the collective consciousness and reach only the people that have accepted me. Does that make sense?
You don't think that that absolutely makes sense? Yeah. You don't think that what if you're speaking to someone that is not I for lack of a better word, spiritual, maybe they don't
Mhm.
believe in the collective consciousness at all. Okay.
Yes.
They just, they're maybe somebody that's just all into science. Do you think that you can still tap in to communicate with their soul collectively, even though they're shut off to that? Or do they have
If
to
your
be open to it?
if your intention is something that he is needing on a solar level, regardless of what his frontal ego is telling you,
Hmm.
it will happen. Somehow, some way, you'll say a word that is exactly what he needs to hear that will spark the growth for him to gain. Um, you know, these these energies that we speak of, they're not just for the ones that are aware of it. They're also for everybody else too. So
Because they know. I mean, we all know we're limited. Well, we limit ourselves. We're really not limited on this earthly plane, but unfortunately, as humans, we limit ourselves. And if we
Mhm.
can just kind of tap into all of that, like you said, all that energy and all the different levels here. I'm just going to name a couple of things that we went over in previous episodes. So we talked about the soul versus spirit, intuition.
Mhm.
Matter of fact, you were on the episode, but it was intuition versus intellect.
Yes.
And then we talked about the different ways of connecting. For example, we discussed chakras and how going through the chakras and the crown chakra connecting to the higher self, specifically the higher self. Dreams we spoke of, divination,
Mhm.
meditation. These are all ways of communicating with your soul. And I
Mhm.
don't think there's just one way of doing it. I think there are, there's so many different ways you can do it, like just going out in nature and just sitting
Mhm.
in nature and just being and living in the present, um,
Yes.
is one of the best ways to connect, and finding that, like, mental telepathy. This is just something that came to my mind. Mental telepathy, being able to read people's minds. Do you think that's on an earthly plane, or do you think that's more two souls communicating?
I think it's more astral. I don't know how to explain it other than like an astral arc.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not something that everybody could just go ahead and, practice a couple times and do. It's an approval. You have to be good enough, in other words. So there, unless you got cheat codes, but you have to be able to connect those chakras. And one reference I like to look at it is life is music. Each chakra has a certain frequency.
Mm-hmm.
When your body is in tune, you're making your own music.
Mm-hmm.
Now your own picture what that's you. Now picture what the next guy's making. What what sound am I making today? If you're having an angry day, put yourself in check. Shit. Damn, I don't want to be, making that sound because it's just gonna come back. Whatever. But if you're gonna connect in that way and read thoughts, that's like a um real deep access. Is the only way I can think of it. I know you can edit this stuff, but um one way that I recently learned with working with a close friend is I used to think that you had to, in order to, do any type of telepathy or any kind of connection like that, it would have to be in such detail where I wouldn't believe it unless I saw every little speck. And and if my details were off, then I thought, oh, I'm just crazy. It's not going to work. And until we spoke and I got a better idea from someone with much more experience that gave me a little bit of ease and said, no, that's not the case. You don't have to see that clear. It's the intention. And when I heard that, my mind took it many places. I analyzed it. It was gifts. You can take that and associate it to a lot of things. And um, one of them was, the more I thought that way, the more I practiced, the more detail I can see. And, the less I tried to hold on to what I need to be in that specific place, the more I saw where I was actually trying to go. And maybe not every detail was exactly the same, but it was close. And for it to be close, the probability is next to nothing. So it's got to be proof that it works. Um, but there are people out there that from I've never met one in person, but I've heard and I do believe that can read that much clarity from you. Um, and I can't, but I don't know if I
Okay,
want
so
to.
I'm
That's a
sure
little
you've
too
had
much.
experiences, though. Everybody's had, or I say everybody, most everybody's had experiences where, you know, either somebody's read your mind or you've read somebody else's mind by accident. And in that moment, for just that little flash of a moment, is it possible that, you know, you connected energetically on a deeper level, you know, to be
It
able to
depends.
read that person's mind for just that brief minute. Um,
I
you
would
know,
think like
and
what
if we could tap into that, on a more regular basis, that would be the key, because I think this huge, like you said, you have this huge web, right?
yeah,
And all
yeah,
these souls out there that are all connected. And
yeah.
then from all these souls, you've got, like, you know, the spirits, or that they're living on this earthly plane. And who knows what other dimensions and stuff are out there, but you know, we're just talking about Earth here. So
Mhm.
so you've got everybody connected. So if we're able to tap into our own soul, then we're also able to tap into everyone else's. And now all the information that's up there, we're able to share. And I think that's what the benefit would be ultimately. And then
Collective consciousness,
feeding the collective consciousness with all the information and all, you know, all the knowledge from
yeah,
the
I
beginning of
agree.
everything. What is your go-to? Is it dreams? Is it, I mean, everybody can do it with dreams and meditation and divination, all that, but what is your go-to if for you to tap in?
Internal focus, and in the beginning would be like maybe heartbeat. Um, I read in a book like the different types of meditation, and one of the like little hints, not hints, but one of the little things I said was earplugs, and that works well for me. If I put earplugs in, I'm better able to be centered
When you
on
meditate,
karma.
okay, and
Yeah.
you go and you find that within yourself, and you're within your
Yes.
frame, okay, and you're completely quiet, when
Yeah.
do you, every single time you meditate, do you connect to your higher self and your soul, or sometimes do you just sit within yourself and just the quietness of yourself, or do you practice both?
I connect to the higher self every time. Um, Only because of practice and awareness. And once I reached it, like it's hard to let go. And I know I've read that it's something that you might not be healthy to do. You gotta disconnect. Um, but I've done it for so long that I enjoy it so much that I feel out of my comfort zone if I do disconnect. And I get all stressed out and I get all like pent up. And it not cool. So connecting to my higher self, it's just something that I feel like it's a daily exercise for me.
Mhm. And gives you that guidance every day
Um,
too.
just final
um
thoughts. Everything we spoke of, takes some research, takes a little bit of work, but in the end, it totally worth it. Um, a feeling of wholeness, oneness, purpose, is priceless. To have peace on the inside is worth more than your weight in gold. Um, because that's when you truly start to live. You truly start to see what is important and what's not. You truly are able to give other, and that's ultimately what it's all about. You're truly able to give your all to other people. And when you're able to do that, it's not a one, you do it selflessly, but it's not one-sided. You get gifted. People have many beliefs, and there's many, let's just, you know, the grand creator, watches, omnipresent, that thing. You know, it's real. It's real. And if you're lucky enough and you put in the work enough, it'll reveal itself to you. And things get put in different perspective. And your magical life begins.
Well, thank you so much for once again coming on here, and I'm so
Mhm.
glad that you got to do the final episode with me. And
Thank you.
yeah, so I'll have you on again. We've got lots of work to do.
Yes, we do.
Blessed be.
Blessed be.
That concludes the final episode of Soul Connection. I want to thank all of my guests that have come on this show that have helped us explore how to communicate and connect to our souls and the importance of doing so. I also want to give a very special thanks to all of you who have joined me on this path, and I invite you to future shows where we discover and explore all different aspects of magic and spirituality. I'll see you next time. Blessed be.